Hendo,
Oh, g'day there. What's going on?
how you going?
I'm all right, mate. What's happening?
I've come into HQ.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look like you're somewhere different.
Yeah, I've moved house, and I first when I moved, I had no power, and then I've still got no internet. So, and the 4G is really bad, and the phone reception is really bad. So I just wasn't even going to try. So I've come into work because that's what we do for this show, mate. We've
Sure. Got to make the sacrifices. Yeah, yeah. Is that because you're knocking down your house and building a new house?
Yes, and I was fully prepared to come to you with the white I'd chosen for my house, but I cannot find it. I know I made a decision and I just can't find what it was.
Yeah. Was it like what you put in the Facebook group?
No, it wasn't fucking white.
Fucking white. Oh my God, that was just the most fucked decision I think I've ever had to make is choosing. So those of you who aren't aware of the conversation, I'm currently renovating an apartment, and if you're not privy to the conversation, it's in our Facebook group, and I had to choose between 6 different whites to paint the wall, thinking, white's white, what could it possibly be? And this is where bloody Dulux get you for the money. I don't think there's a lot of profit margin in paint, but those little bloody 100 mil sample pots are fucking $6 a pot. And I bought 6
of those.
Yeah, I'd pay for them. Yeah, Bunnings. You just go get them. And then lo and behold, I've decided now which color white I'm going for. Would you like to know what color white
I'm doing a drum roll without the noise. So yeah,
it's called Lexicon Half.
Oh, you know what? When I saw that on your thing, I thought that is the one that I chose as well.
Yeah,
I've got to dig it out now.
It's pretty good. It's just like, so I bought a big 10 liter or 15 liter drum of this shit, right? And you take the Blake white and they have to tint it, right? And so you take it over and said, oh, can you please turn this into Lexicon Half? You go, sure, no worries, mate. Rips the lid off, puts it into the tinting machine, punches it into the computer, and like literally, I shit you not, in a 15 liter drum of paint, like maybe 5 mils of black paint just went boop.
Oh, wow.
And then he shook it up, and there you go, Lexicon Half. Thanks for coming.
That's amazing. Yeah, if you think that's daunting, like because I'm building a house with Metricon, and they give you one day to go in and basically choose absolutely everything that's inside this house. Like you can customize things or change the floor plan or whatever, but I didn't really change that much. Like the floor plan basically stayed more or less as is, but every other thing you can think of inside a house that you pay for, you're obviously not furniture and whatever, but everything else gets decided in one day. And you go through their studios and you choose everything. And you're not prepared. Like they gave me a booklet, but I was just like, I don't know what to do with the booklet. So I'm just going to choose on the day.
What a whirlwind. What a whirlwind that must have been. And I was like, I'm shit with the interior design and colors and all that sort of thing. I had a lady come out and design the kitchen for the place that's going in this week, which I'm pretty stoked about.
Nice.
She's like, oh, what do you like? And I was like, I don't know. I showed her a picture of like this house. I went, I kind of like that. She goes, yeah, no worries. Beep, 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 into the computer. How does that look? And I'm like, the one thing that I really wanted, right, because I do like to cook, is I really wanted a double oven.
Oh, yeah.
And I got my double oven.
Nice.
I'll show you a picture.
What is it?
I got a double oven. It's like 2 ovens on the fucking wall, double oven.
Jesus. Why do you need that?
Why not? Have a look at that.
Oh,
see
wow.
That?
Why do you need 2 ovens?
There's my thumb up there even and everything like that, right?
No, I can see it.
Yeah, so the bottom one is a steam oven.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not very good with cooking.
It's an oven that makes steam. You stick water in it, and it's like in commercial kitchens.
Wow.
Right, and then the top one is a combi microwave oven. So it's like a normal fan forced oven, and it's a microwave as well. Because it's not a particularly big kitchen. And I didn't want to sit the microwave on the bench to waste space.
You don't want to do that.
There you go.
And you don't really, you kind of don't need a microwave that much, do you, anymore? Unless you're kind of disorganized.
I use mine quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, for defrosting and all sorts of
Yeah,
things.
defrosting, yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the Home Improvement Show.
I know this is I like the interior design stuff. Like I do the design for our tap rooms. It's like a guilty pleasure of mine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do a house like that, you're not really designing the interior because all the floor plan exists as is already. The furniture you choose later on, and you're really just choosing the materials. Like I didn't change the floor plan, but I chose every material on every surface and every color and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you've got some control, but you don't have enough to be that dangerous. Like I suppose you can make some really bad decisions, but I just went like neutral white, basically everything. So
yeah, you can't really go wrong with that. Hey,
yeah,
and that's what I've basically done. My kitchen's basically white and stainless steel. I mean, I like stainless steel. Yeah, it's just fucking great, and pretty neutral. And then any color I'm going to add is going to be my own shit.
Yeah.
So anyway,
what did you do for your stove? What sort of stove did you put in there?
Induction, mate. Induction. Get out. Yeah, it's great. I just bought the top of the line induction stove.
Awesome,
man. My stove in this place, this rental, man, is shit. It's one of those old ceramic ones. Takes 20 minutes to boil water. Man, I want to press a button, hit boost, come back in 2 minutes, and the pot's boiling.
Yeah.
That. And then this is the thing that I'm really proud of, right? It's a pretty old flat, old six-pack building, and they had to run a new electric circuit from the switchboard over to the kitchen for the stove and the 2 ovens.
Right.
And in order to run the wire, Sparky had to punch 3 holes in the plaster ceiling. And I filled them up and I've painted them. Can't even tell they were there.
You did that yourself?
Yep. Go YouTube. Amazing.
Did you get a bit of Lexicon white around the edge?
No. So here's the thing, right? Ceilings get painted a different color to walls.
Right. They're just plain white.
Ceilings get the white,
the
ultra white, and then the walls get that for a little bit of perspective. Otherwise, it feels like you're living in a cube. That's
what they told me. I was happy to live in pure white and stainless, but they said, no, you need to add that little one drop of black into the
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Have you got a beer there, Hendo?
I've got a beer here.
You got a glass?
Yes, I do have a glass. There you go. There's my glass. I have got the Moore beer from Port Macquarie, MOORE, Moore beer, Imperial Choc Vanilla Porter.
Wow. Give us a single sip on that and tell me what you think.
One moment, madam. Let me just sort that out.
Did you have a Moore beer on the first episode we did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, they sent me some a while ago. So this is a good opportunity to get some of these out and drink them.
Yeah.
I can smell it from here. It's beautiful.
Nice head on it.
Not bad, eh? Damn, that's actually really good.
Nice.
Lots of chocolate and vanilla. Lots of malt. Wow. That's banging.
We like that.
Banging all 9%. Woo.
Very good. All right. Well, I've got a beer as well, but I'm mid beer, so I'm going to have to do it out of sequence.
Yeah.
So when I finish this beer, I'll get the other beer and we'll get that back into action.
Yeah.
So I'll start with a bit of a call to action. If you're enjoying the podcast, which I know at least 2 or 3 people are, because I've had some messages.
It's definitely 3.
Yeah, 3, maybe 4. You might have had some messages as well. Join the email list, bossandthebrewer.com. Tell a friend, share, give us a review, suggest a guest. Or if you're super keen, join our new Facebook group, because I set that up after the show, after we thought we'd give it a crack. So we do have a Facebook group, Boss and the Brewer. Join on there. Get amongst.
Is there a link on our website for that?
That's a good point. I don't think I put it on the website.
Yeah.
But I can do that.
Go for it.
That's easy enough. And I also wanted to, before we started, give a shout out to, which actually, this actually could be, I do have a few news items. This could be in the news, but I haven't got in the news, but Matic down the Gold Coast, who we've mentioned on the show before, they listen, they're supporters, they're opening their brewery after, many many years of doing it at home and planning and whatnot. So I'm going to the soft launch on Friday. I think they're opening. Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, I'm staying down. I went and got an apartment down in Brewer Beach, and I'm gonna stay down for the night.
Ah, true.
Mm.
We've got the Young Entrepreneur Awards on that night, and unfortunately, because of my age, I'm no longer qualified. But Eddie and Govs are, so I'm going along in support. So I'm going to go to Matic first, and then I'm going to rock up as an old person at the Young Entrepreneurs Award, like a toolie at schoolies, and support Eddie and Govs.
You know what? You need to own that shit. Take a walking stick.
Take my what?
Take a walking stick.
Oh wow. Okay. Do you have one of those?
Or a Zimmer frame or something else? Fuck off. Just if you're gonna be the old dude, just own it, man.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Okay. I'm going to look at Marketplace. I've been smashing Marketplace for all the furniture. I'll see if they have walking sticks. What time are you going to be at Matic?
Oh, I'll be there for 4 o'clock when it opens.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well,
it's 4 till 7, I think. So yeah, looking forward to that. So
yeah. If you're on the Gold Coast, get behind them. They're really nice, and the beers are really good. I'm really looking forward to seeing the brewery too. It looks like they've gone after it. Like it's a pretty decent looking brewery from what I've seen.
It's I sort of stopped through whilst it was under construction. It's looking really, really good.
Yeah,
and they've got some really unique challenges. Being a brewery that makes Belgian style beers, because if you're a brewery that makes a lot of yeast driven beers, you can't be rolling the typical yeast strains that a typical brewery rolls, right? And so they've got a lot of challenges about propagating yeast and all that sort of thing, and they're doing really good.
Yeah. It's also a style that's it's not the hype style, that's for sure.
No.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I hope they go really well, and I'm glad. Like their place, I went to their place at Pack Pines when it was in their garage, and it was just the coolest ever. So
yeah, shit, yeah, I loved it.
Kind of bring that vibe to the bigger stage.
Yeah, I hope so.
Did you have any feedback on last episode?
Yeah, I've got a few messages about it. Lots of people saying, "Oh, that was a really interesting episode." I think Luke Cooper, he sort of said to me, he's like, I really loved Michael's sensory description of his beer / coffee.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, well, look, it was an interesting topic. We covered quite a bit in that show, and Michael's an absolute legend. Oh, that's given me an idea.
Hit me with it.
Well, after he was talking about Grodzitsky or Grodzitska, however it's pronounced, I want to brew one.
You want to brew? Yeah, I thought I knew where that was going.
Yeah. Well, you reckon I can hit up GABS? It's a summer 100%. Beer.
Yeah.
I might hit up GABS. If he's going to do the thing on Friday, I might hit him up and say, "Hey, man, can I come down and brew a Grodzitsky?"
Is it? So it's a Polish style, right?
It is a Polish style beer. So, so as Michael said, perfect for summer. So 3.5%, 100% oak smoked malt, and some Saaz or some of that Polish hop, which I can't remember the name of, and East German ale yeast or Kolsch yeast or something like that.
Yeah.
And even though it's a smoked beer, I was thinking about it because it's such a low ABV beer. It might be pretty tasty. It might be pretty smashable as a summer beer, eh?
Yeah, well, hit Eddie and Gubs up on Friday. They'll both be. Eddie's super keen to check out Matic. Oh, so I was going. Actually, Gubs. I don't know if Gubs is going to be able to make it because he's got to kind of rush home, do parenting things, and then get to the awards. But hit Eddie up.
Oh, hit Eddie up. Yeah,
sounds fun. Yeah, I had quite a bit. I just thought I'd give people an update on some stats. I don't know if anyone cares about this, but I think it's cool. We're getting about 200 to 250 downloads an episode, so that's pretty good.
Wow,
not bad.
We started with nothing.
We've got 18 email subscribers.
Woo! That's up. Cool. That's up 30%.
Well, there you go. Last week. If you're measuring on a percentage growth basis, we're fucking crushing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got 20 people in the new Facebook group, so that's cool. Actually, posted in there tonight and asked if anyone had any last minute questions. So I better check because I haven't checked that yet, but that's cool. I had a few people reach out to me saying they enjoyed the episode. One was Adzi from Helios. So I'll get to that when I get to my beer.
Yeah.
I had this Mark from a brewery in northern New South Wales that is on the way. I don't know how public it is, so I better not say the name. Hey, Dan, it's Mark here. I'm just flicking you a quick text to say loving the podcast. Nice work. So that's cool. Little sneaky shout out, not a shout out, little mention on Brews News, which was cool in their news. Yeah, in their little news episode on Thursday that they do.
Awesome.
So that was cool.
Now the big bucks are going to roll in.
Oh, dude, the sponsors are lining up. we're going to get a call from Manscaped very soon to start talking about shaving our balls, because every single podcast I listen to, that's all people talk about.
Yeah, as long as it's not Head and Shoulders, I don't care.
Yeah, good. Okay. And I had this one from Scott Eckford. Do you know Scott?
He's up in Townsville. Yeah, I know Scott.
So he said, I found Michael Kopic's story about the sensory loss after getting COVID interesting. 2015, when I was brewing at Townsville Brewing Co., I contracted dengue fever for the second time. The first time was in the 90s. Both times I felt like I was going to die. Anyway, after the second dose, I completely lost my sense of smell and lost most of my taste. Slowly in the months that followed, my recovery of smell and taste started coming back. He sort of goes on to say that he stopped judging and still has a reasonable palate, but kind of gets peer review on his beers because he isn't quite what it was before. So
yeah, right.
That's pretty crazy.
It's really interesting about the whole loss of smell and tasting. I walked into that conversation thinking, if that happened to me, that's the end of life as I know it. That's it. Game over. I'm done. But I found Michael's story really inspirational. It's like, it's like an injury. If you get injured, you go to the physio, you get rehabilitated, and you pick yourself up, and away you go. So I feel different about that thing, right? That situation now, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Very good. One more before we get into the topics. Brendan Ash says, "Hey Hendo," in brackets boss, which is fair.
That is true.
And Dan in brackets legend, which I enjoyed.
Yes.
Maybe not expert, but that's okay.
Okay.
Have just finished the first 3 episodes and loved it. Marsden is a pisser. Great insights. Where can I buy a Suck My Yak t-shirt?
Suck My Yak? Is it?
Remember
yeah, Mazen's.
Yeah. Remember Mazen's going on about all the yaks and he's like, suck my yak.
Suck my yak.
Right. So that one got some
Maybe
traction.
we need merch.
We need merch. That was why I put this in there.
Yeah. So do you know why Brendan called me boss?
Tell me.
I am his boss.
Okay. That works.
So he's new brewer down at the Brownstone Brewery down in Melbourne that I run.
Oh, okay.
And literally I am his boss.
Oh, that's
in some
cool.
respects. So yeah.
Very good. Nice. Well, I mean, I think Suck My Yak shirts are probably a fair way off, let's be honest, but cheers for the love.
I don't know. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think
Mazen would wear it.
I'll leave that alone for now. Did you listen to this is not on the agenda, but did you listen to the Brews News Stone and Wood thing?
No.
So have a listen to it if you feel like it, because when Stone and Wood sold, they did the normal weekly episode, and then
you mean when they got Jamie Cook on?
No. They normally do a thing at the end of the podcast where they kind of dig into more of the details. And when the Stone and Wood sale happened, they were kind of recording the podcast as it was happening. Although I'm sure they knew about it because we all kind of knew about it in the morning. But they didn't do like the extended opinion sort of episode because I think it would have been so savage at the time. But they put it out last week after we did ours anyway. So yeah, it's worth a listen. I thought it was because I know when we talked about it, it was kind of like, the founders made. I always back the founders because I just I think whatever decision they made is the right decision. I always back the founders by default, and I stand by that. But I thought that they made some pretty good points on there and were reasonably fair. I expected it to be a bit more savage because I know everyone was very upset, but yeah, very worth a listen.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Incidentally, the Stoner Woods thing kind of seems to have gone away. I mean,
Of course it has.
Yeah, it hasn't been long, has it? It's
absolutely has gone according to plan.
Yeah, it feels like everything's gone back to normal.
Everything's back to normal. Taps have changed in pubs, and I'm sure some things for some of the staff there are a little bit different, or still going through a state of flux and that sort of thing. But as far as the beer punters go, the craft beer geeks and the craft beer community goes,
yeah,
it's old news,
Business as usual. Yeah, but even some of the staff I've spoken to, and it's just like, we're busy. Summer, a lot of pack ale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I still drink it.
Yeah.
It's like if it's the beer on at the pub on if you go to a line pub now, and if it's on tap, it's like, what else am I going to drink?
Yeah. And that new can they put out, Bloom something, looks awesome too. I like the look of that can. The counterculture one.
Yeah.
Okay. News items. We've got news this week. We've got a few. Last week I don't really think we did any news, but we've got a few this week. The first thing I noticed is the Indies is going to be on November 25.
Yes.
Their live stream. So that's good. That's been announced.
Yes. There'll be a few different locations around Australia. And then we'll have, I think, Crafty and probably Kirley as well. I think hosting it. I really hope Carl from Moondog is manning the bar as he did last year, because he's always good value. And I got off the phone to Maddie Wilson from Moffat Beach. So they're going to be one of the locations. There's a location in Brisbane, TBA.
Easy Times, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. There you go.
Yep. So that'll be good. And I think Moondog is a location in Melbourne, so maybe they'll do the stream thing from there as opposed to him being part of the telecast. But
where was that? Sorry,
Moondog. So Moondog are the site,
the main site. Yep.
Yeah. So that'll be
Should be fun.
Yeah. Second one I've got on here is the GABS Can Design Awards.
Oh yeah, when does that wrap up?
That's done and dusted. It was pretty fun. I think it was last Friday when they started announcing them all.
Did you win?
We did not win, but we made it into the top 10, which was cool.
Yeah.
For the second year in a row. Stomping Ground won.
Oh, what beer?
With that Nectaron of the Gods, the one.
Oh, yeah.
All the craziness. Was that because it's, I think, a new beer, but was that the thing they had their whole GABS stand designed around with all the fruit and shit?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The GABS stand.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some. I think this is a cool idea because it celebrates the designers, and a lot of these designers are, they're not all kind of in this industry. They're just designers that are freelance designing, doing work for a bunch of different breweries, bunch of different industries. So to get recognition in this industry is really cool. And I noticed a lot of the designers, like our designer Dave Heavyside, one of our designers, the one who we submitted the award for, was super excited to come in 5th. I think we came in.
Yep.
And then
that was for Murder Hornet, wasn't it?
For Murder Hornet, yep. And I noticed a bunch of other designers sharing these awards, and they were stoked about it. So I think it's really cool.
So the winner was Nectaron of the Gods, then Black Flag Kick-Ons.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Aether Hefe. I love that. I love Aether's new core range lineup. So cool.
Cool. That's very cool, that one. I like this one. I think this was my favorite, the 0 Kelvin cold IPA from Little Bay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's a cool. And they won it last year, I think. So that was.
Yeah, right. Then Murder Hornet. Then Sidewinder Hazy from Brick Lane. Yeah, I actually saw that on LinkedIn. Paul from Brick Lane posted, and I went, those stripes just look fucking cool.
They do look cool. I saw that on a bus
Yeah.
shelter driving home the other day. So Dan Murphy's must be because I think it was a Dan Murphy's bus shelter with that beer on it.
Yeah. And then what do we got here?
Pirate
Rum
Life.
barrel aged coffee and molasses Baltic porter from Pirate Life.
That's a cool looking can. I like that.
Yeah, that is a cool
Pirate Life
looking
do
can.
good stuff.
I love the gold, man.
Yeah.
The gold embossing there is really cool. Last Tram to Brunswick, DDH Nipa from Temple Brewing Co. Lovely. And then Bucketies.
Yeah, that's cool to see them in there as well. That's a cool one.
Yeah, you don't see Temple that much anymore. That's really good to see.
They were one of the first breweries we ever went to in Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. I live just around the corner from them, and it's good bunch of people.
Yeah.
What else we got here? Tawny Grogmouth from Bucketies.
I saw a lot of people on our things said I've just voted for Tawny Grogmouth after your one because it's just cool. And it is the cool name, and it's a cool can. Yeah,
the illustrations are really cool on it.
Yeah, that's
and then Cavalier Event Horizon Black IPA, which is like they're all really cool, man.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
cool bunch of labels. It's bloody hard to do labels, It's like you gotta do stuff that's sort of on brand, but then you got to be creative as well. And it's there's a whole episode in that, dude.
Oh, many episodes. Yeah, we could get some of our designers on here. We work with some of the most amazing people. Like last year we were in the list with Moondancer with Troy. This year Dave's done like 30 cans for us. He's awesome. There's another guy that I'm working with for all the AWOL designs. Who just draws this crazy, it's called Crank Illustration, Tim from New Zealand. Check out his Instagram. He just draws these crazy, weird bacterial carnage is what he calls it, the kind of AWOL design. He just draws them all. It's just amazing. These people.
How do you find all these people?
I just follow all these accounts. I've been doing web design for fucking years. So there's that, but I follow all these accounts and I love it. I love seeing them. I love seeing all the designs.
What do you do? Just reach out to them on Insta and say, hey, I'm Dan from Black Ops. Would you do some beer labels for us?
To be honest, I don't look for new designers very often. Like I've worked with, we get people come to us a lot to do design. So I don't normally reach out to them. The only one I reached out to that I can think of, I did reach out to Tim after seeing the crazy shit he was doing because I wanted that crazy bacterial thing for AWOL. Before that, the first time was Matt Vigotis when we originally did our cans, which was years ago.
Yep.
But since then, since the brand's, kind of reasonably well known, we get people approaching us all the time. So Dave I knew Dave anyway. He used to come in, he used to work down the corner, like I knew him. And at our 4th birthday, he was like, "Oh, I'd love to do some cans for you. Let me just have a crack at one of them." And one of them was the Murder Hornet.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "Holy shit, yeah, let's keep doing this."
That's good.
But these guys are so talented. Like you think brewers do work hard, but these guys work just as hard. Like me and Dave message each other all day, every day about this kind of shit. He's up all night designing shit. They're just constantly thinking about this stuff. It's a legit skill that should be appreciated for sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah. What's next? We've got the Southern. So yeah, I came up with a title for this episode. It was Indies GABS Can Design Awards: Valuation, Liquidation, and Pasteurization.
Perfect.
So we're on to liquidation, unfortunately,
yeah.
which is not something to laugh about. So Southern Bay Brewing, who I don't know a lot about, other than a few news articles that have come out, but there's a post on Brews News saying they're going into liquidation, and the liquidator saying it's in the very early stages, but they've had ongoing issues for a number of years, and sort of mentioning COVID and losing a head brewer and that kind of stuff. There was some brand things that went on. Do you know much about these guys?
Yeah, I used to be the head brewer there in 2012. Okay,
good. Well, then you can talk more about this.
I just thought to see how far I could take it, let you go.
That's why that's why this podcast works, because I know about some shit and you know more about all the other shit.
Yeah, I started at Southern Bay in sort of early 2012 after I'd finished up at Prickly Moses, Otway Estate. The reason why I took the job is I just wanted to move closer to Melbourne because I was living in Colac. I was living in Colac when I started at Prickly Moses, and then moved to Geelong, was commuting from Geelong to Colac every day. And that was like an hour and a quarter each way in the car, every, 2.5 hours a day in the car. And it's a very old brewery, very old.
Yes, you mentioned that in the article, yeah.
And so to give you some examples of how old it is, right? So first up, the fermentation vessels. They're not cylindrical vessels like you've got at your brewery. They're like old square tanks.
Right.
So think about like a 40-foot shipping container that's been cut lengthways down the center, right? That's the shape of the tanks.
They're still jacketed.
No, they're not. No, single skin in a big cold room set to a certain temperature.
Wow.
And then and a couple of the tanks had some cooling coils run through them to keep things cool. No CIP in those tanks.
Wow.
So when you wanted to clean the tank, you actually had to suit up, grab a bucket of caustic and a bucket and scrub.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
How old is it?
So the brewery started, I believe, in 1988, and Nick Warming, or the Warming family, who owned it until its demise, I think they bought it in 1998 or early 2000. Actually, I think if I remember correctly, his father bought it and died 6 months later after he bought it. Yeah. And so no CIP in the fermentation tanks, and then the maturation cellars is basically a bigger cold room set to a cold temperature with 20 something more of these tanks. The really interesting thing is these tanks, they hold about 180 hectolitres, so 18,000 litres, and they're pressure vessels when they're bricked in. Okay, so these old tanks came from the old, I think it was the old Vollum Brewery, which was in Geelong, where the Westfield Shopping Centre is in the middle of Geelong. And so the Vollum Brewery was bought out by CUB, and the brewery was kept, and these tanks used to be bricked in, and what they would do is they would tanker beer down from Abbotsford to there, carb them up, and then local distribution is what they used to do. And so they moved these tanks out of the central Geelong over to Point Henry, which is the road that goes out to the old aluminium smelter that was in Geelong. And very, very old, very, very run down. The brew house is fascinating. So there's a mash tun kettle and a whirlpool are made from mild steel, not stainless. So it's just, and so the rust it's what keeps it from corroding and that sort of thing. The lauter tun is beautiful. It was from the old Geelong distillery that's out near the maltings and the BP or Shell refinery that's out there in Geelong North or North Geelong. And it's clad with oak. It's fucking stunning. Lauter tun in this really odd industrial place. The packaging line was like the bottling line was a 70-year-old Meyer bottling line that could do 160 bottles a minute. So it's pretty fast, but very, very old. No enclosures with interlocks and all that sort of stuff. You get your finger caught in that, it's game over, right? Wow. And old tunnel pasteurizer. And the thing is, right, is that the brewery could smash out some good beers, So it was really good at smashing out lots of lager. That's what it was really geared.
I was going to ask that. Is it? I'm guessing they weren't making the modern sort of crafty kind of beer.
Yeah. So I sort of took over as head brewer of the brewery after Dennis, who'd been there for ages, years. I don't think I've ever met Dennis, but he's a bit of a legend in that place, and it was a real eye opener. I was well and truly over my head, of my skill set, and the learning curve was really, really deep, really, really steep. But we made some good beer, and we put out. It was actually mentioned on a Facebook post that I saw this week. Someone had I think it was the Brews News, I think, and someone had said, "Oh, I miss Hop Bazooka." That was probably the signature beer that I did, and
that sounds like a Hendo beer.
had a sick label. Hey, had the sickest label, and it was. I'm going to see if I can pull it up, mate, just so I can show you the label there. I want to show you the OG Hop Bazooka label. I can see some of the newer version of it, but the old one was just so cool. It was just like a silhouette of a toy soldier with a bazooka on his shoulder, nearly.
Yeah, nice.
And it was just really, really good, really, really well done. Anyway, so I just at the time, I was a bit enamored, and I wanted with Hop Hog, and I just wanted to make a beer as good as Hop Hog. And so we made Hop Bazooka, and we dry hopped it with an ungodly 9 grams per liter at the time, which at the time was absolutely unheard of. But now it's like it's Wednesday,
Yeah.
and then we entered it into the Perth Royal Beer Show and beat Hop Hog.
Ah, nice.
That was when I sort of said, "Oh shit, mate, might be all right at this beer making thing. Let's keep cracking with it." And It was really, really good. And to be fair, the reason why that beer was so good was because of the old equipment. Right. So how it worked, right, was that we had these old square tanks, and they had these cross members inside it. And what we did was there was some pellets and some whole flowers that we dry hopped it with. I can't remember off the top of my head. There was some Galaxy flowers we actually got. And so what we did is we sprinkled pellets across the bottom of the tank, and then we hung flowers from these cross members. And so it got really good circulation, and it was just so hoppy and piney, and juicy hops weren't really invented then, but it was absolutely amazing and such a good beer.
What was the category? And was just the IPA category, or?
It was 6%, I think. So let's have a look.
American IPA,
I think it was American style strong pale ale, I think it was.
Yeah.
So 5.6%. Yeah.
If my memory serves me correct, did you do one of the first beer? Well, it probably wasn't one of the first beers I had out of yours, but when you were doing Brew Cult, did you do a beer called Thanks Captain Obvious, which was a Hop Hog clone of sorts?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of the evolution of it, right? So if you want to talk about the evolution of my development of skills in brewing IPA, right? It started at Prickly Moses with an IPA called the Raconteur IPA, which Luke Scott let me brew.
Yeah.
And I did so many revisions of that. I had a pilot brewery that I built myself, and I pilot brewed it, then we'd scale it up, brew a batch, then I'd take it back down and brew it again, and up and down with scaling this beer. I worked so hard on refining that recipe and learning heaps about IPA. And then that sort of went into Hop Bazooka. And
Hop
then
Bazooka?
after
Hop Bazooka.
Yeah, Hop Bazooka at Southern Bay. And then after Hop Bazooka at Southern Bay, when I started Brew Cult straight after that, and then it became Thanks Captain Obvious.
Yep. I think you did. Did you do that for the first time at GABS one year? Not before you had it in the bottle? Like you had
Thanks
it on
Captain
tap?
Obvious?
Yeah. I
did a batch of it like before it became part of the core range.
Yeah, I had that. I think it was at GABS.
And it had, and Richard Adamson from Young Henry's sent me what he wanted the decal to be, which was basically that do all the things meme,
Right.
from years and years ago. Drink all the hops, I think it was like.
Yeah.
And that was the decal, was the meme. And then when did the rebrand and that sort of thing, and that's when it sort of became the orange beer in the core range.
The first time I had it was before then. I think it was a GABS, or it was something. We were down at Melbourne, and Eddie's like, "Oh, Ando's done a hop hog clone. Try this." I was like, "Fuck, this is amazing." Did you see this wasn't in our little list here, but did you see Ferrell, one of the original founders from Ferrell, is reopening the Swan Valley?
Yeah, Al from the Great Northern in Melbourne.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so he's a venue operator and that sort of thing. Runs the Great Northern in Melbourne, and for him to go and take over the Swan Valley venue, I think that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Good opportunity.
So anyway, thoughts on the Southern Bay? I mean,
yeah,
it's always sad it's always heartbreaking when a business doesn't work anymore. So I just think of the founders, and I hope they're all good.
How do I feel about it, right? So I've had about 24 hours for this to sort of sink in, right? I did not get along very well with the general manager or the owner of the business at the time. I think that brewery had so much potential if they just had invested in new equipment and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, the owner of the company didn't want to invest. There was a lot of bad stuff going on there, a lot of bullying and harassment and bloke culture and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, I've met some lifelong friends there, like Matty Cuthbert, who's the head brewer out at Revel. He'd already worked there for 7 years, but before I got there. Yeah,
he looks like he's 25 years old. How is that even possible?
Well, he got out of high school and basically went to study brewing straight out of high school.
Wow. Amazing.
And so, Matty had been there 7 years. When I first met him, he was just very, quite broken, disheveled, because it just wasn't a very healthy culture there. And I sort of came in with a fresh set of eyes and said, let's be creative and let's do stuff. And I said to Matty, you want to make a beer? You want to make your own beer? And he said, yeah, I'd like to. And I said, mate, you can spend whatever money you want on raw materials. So he came up with this beer called Requiem Pilsner. Yeah. And it was, and I have to give full credit to Matty Cuthbert for teaching me how to make lager, and doing that at Southern Bay, and so we made this Requiem Uber Pale Pilsner. So we got the Wyman Premium Pilsner malts, the palest one you can get, and some Kiwi hops. Banging Pilsner. It was so good. Dry hopped and all that sort of stuff. Really, really good. And then so Matty's just a legend, and I love him to bits. There's Steve Walker, who's now brewing. He left Southern Bay. He went to Creatures for a while. I think he's at Blackman's now, down at the Surf Coast there.
Yeah.
We call him Steve Amices because he would do all of the microplating, and I'd never actually seen it before I started at Southern Bay. And every week he would go take samples for all the tanks, and he would plate it up, and he would explain the mushroom of sterility, how he would work underneath a Bunsen burner, and that was all sterile and all sorts of stuff. And I was fascinated with what he did. I had no fucking idea what he was doing. Yeah. But I'm like, you do that. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
And then young Ryan Tyack, who is at Pirate Life in Adelaide now. I think he heads up engineering there, or has something to do with the engineering there. Young fella, absolutely young, very young guy.
So he'd probably qualify for the Young Entrepreneurs Awards if he wanted to.
He would still qualify even 10 years later, mate.
Okay.
And he built this amazing homebrew system that was fully automated. So it was like hooked up into an Arduino. and he could sit on his couch and mash in and do mash steps from his couch and all that sort of stuff. And on his brewery, that's where we did the first pilot batches of Two Birds Sunset Ale.
Wow.
So we did some product development with Jane around that. Jane had never brewed on anything less than 50 hec prior.
Yeah.
And here she was doing some product development on a 50-liter brewery and that sort of thing, which was so cool. Alex Lovelock, who works for Mazin now over at Hawkins.
Oh, yes. He's the head brewer there?
Alex, no, but I think he heads up the cellar.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I think the cellar is his. The centrifuge is his.
Right.
And Alex started a short time after I started there, and he was a chef, got sick of working in hospitality and shit hospitality hours.
That's fair.
And he lived in Melbourne. He'd drive down to Geelong every day, and just decided to give him a go because he was just so keen and motivated, and he's built a career out of it, which I think is amazing. It's pretty cool. And I work with some people that are still in the industry. I think Tiff Waldron was like the social media manager at the time. But obviously not when they did that faux pas a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm guessing she wasn't working there then.
No. But it was a great place, but good people, but there was a real toxic culture there. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Southern Bay lasted as long as it did.
Well, I guess reading into what was in that the article, it kind of sounded like it wasn't going too well for quite a while.
It was never going well. It was never going well when I was there a decade ago. And the fact that it made it 10 years afterwards is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is that, Nick Warming, the owner, he had a property portfolio of, I think it was mostly pubs and that sort of thing in South Australia. And I think what he saw in Southern Bay was the land value, because it's right on Corio Bay and it was across the road from the salt flats. But there was this, 20-year vision that they would build a marina in that spot. So he saw the future value of the land. And I think that's why he held on to it, because he was thinking of it from the real estate perspective first and foremost.
Yeah.
But I think he's sort of, his businesses in South Australia didn't go well, trying to prop up Southern Bay, which wasn't going well, and then eventually the whole thing just come undone. And it just took that long to do. It's I don't really feel much for that guy.
Wow, that's interesting, because when you were saying that, I checked my phone, because when that social media faux pas thing came out, I texted him. I've never met the guy, but I just texted him and said, like, we've been through bad things, let me know if you want. Just because I just always think, like, back the founder, because, every founder I've ever met from a craft brewery is always doing their best. So it's interesting to hear you say that. And I just messaged him and said, let me know if you want a hand or anything. And I think he replied back. I just checked the message, he replied back and said, no, it's all fine, But yeah, I don't want to talk down on people. I don't know.
No, exactly. No, he's just odd character, know. The liquidator is going to have a very, very tough time
with the equipment stuff. It sounds like
it's not the equipment, mate. It's the land.
Yeah,
it's the issue, right? It needs a horrendous amount of environmental rehabilitation, right? So the brewery wasn't connected up to the sewer,
right?
And so basically raw trade waste, brewery trade waste, got pumped up the back.
I feel like we're going to get sued if we keep talking.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was, and the council knew it. So
on that note, I'm going to get my beer.
All right. What are you going to get, and what do I do while you're gone?
I don't know. You can be like on Joe Rogan, where someone goes to the toilet and you talk to Jamie.
Oh, we don't have a Jamie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to find the original Hop Bazooka label though, because it was cool as. I keep finding the new one, which is not really fair.
All right, that wasn't too long because it wasn't a toilet. Now, first of all, this glass here that I got from Flash from Cooley Liquor, who's got the Rusty and Flash show, which I've been on, is the same glass you had the other day that I called you out on.
Oh, where's it come from then?
Well, this is what I wasn't clear about because it's Thirsty Merchants make it because it's got Thirsty Merchants branding on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is, I mean, he gave it to me. So I don't know if it's got it doesn't have his branding on it. So I just think I don't know.
Someone's given that glass to me as a gift.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And I can't remember who.
All right. Well,
it was
probably Flash.
I don't think I met Flash.
Speaking of gifts, Adzi from Helios.
Hey.
Send me these.
Cerberus.
How good.
Nice. How good is beer mail? We need more beer mail, mate.
That was the whole thing. It was like when we started, it was like, we're only doing this so people send us free beer.
Have you got it in a glass? Because I never had it in a glass when I drank it.
I'm about to find out. So that was the dream, people would be bulk sending us free beer. And we've brought this to fruition, Hendo.
Well, we've started. It's the beginning.
Right.
Where do people send beer to Dan at Black Hops and
Hendo at the renovated apartment?
Yeah.
He gave me 2 of these, said he enjoyed listening to the show, and 2 of the porter, which I think, did you drink on here? I think maybe.
Porter? Yeah, I think I've got some. Yeah, I've got the porter. I've had the porter. Yeah.
Yeah. And I gave one to Eddie because Eddie was excited to try this one as well.
Show us the glass.
Man, it smells good.
It doesn't it? It's amazing.
The lighting in here is dog shit, so you probably can't even see it. It looks really
it's an amazing ruby red. So I was at I went to Brewdog after we recorded the podcast last week.
For the collab. So this was the beer for it, was it?
And that was the beer for it. So I had to go and support Adzi for that because he's one of my former students, and that was his first commercially released beer, and I'm always support someone in that. It's a great start to a brewing career, and that really floats my boat. Amazing looking beer. It's the strangest, deepest, reddest red beer that I've ever seen. It's like red's such a hard color to nail as a brewer,
Yeah.
They can work out being golden or they can work out being brown, and that transition through red and copper and all that sort of stuff. There's not much room to move.
Yeah.
And what he's pulled off with that is amazing.
That's true. Tastes really good too. And
it's hoppy too, eh?
As someone who owns an American Bulldog, it's got a little pit bull on the front there with these metallic crazy eyes, which I'm enjoying as well.
Well, that's Cerberus. That's the 3-headed dog, mate.
Yeah. Is that the thing they had in Harry Potter?
Not sure.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Don't really watch Harry Potter.
If we had Jamie, he would find that out for us.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, yes. Okay. Southern Made. Let's move on from that. But I feel bad. I still feel bad. I don't know the guy. I feel bad when a business goes out of business because,
Sure.
For the staff and the founders and everyone else, it's not good.
It's tough.
Yeah. All right. Good Beer Week 2022 was announced. So this is going back a week and a bit.
Yeah.
But I think this is cool because we haven't had one for a while.
Oh my God. It's going to be so good to have it back.
Yeah. And we had an event locked in for the last one with our AWOL stuff because we had there was a sour beer event happening down there and we were fully pumped. We were ready to go. And nothing. And we had an event at the Park Hotel in Abbotsford. We had a few things like Pint of Origin, that kind of stuff. But the last one didn't happen. So it's cool.
I went down for part of Good Beer Week, this year and that sort of thing. Wasn't supposed to, but it was a very sort of cut down Good Beer Week this year. But it's going to be really good to see it come back and really shine. I think the IBA have the opportunity here to really connect directly with consumers instead of the industry.
Yeah.
I I think if it goes well this year, I think it would be great if the IBA went and expanded Good Beer Week out into other cities around Australia.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's got to be a good one, doesn't it? Because it's
as a way to connect. Because the other thing, another thing that hasn't happened, Sydney Craft Beer Week hasn't happened in a while. Bruce Vegas hasn't happened in a while, and it's a good way for the IBA to connect directly to consumers and start to actually sell what independence is.
Yeah, the breweries, is that still a thing? That's probably not a thing anymore.
Well, that was Marty Keedles, as part of the what was the beer festival? Bloody
beer and cider.
Beer and cider, yeah.
He's also doing something. He called me the other day. He's doing something else. He's still around.
Yeah. So the breweries was kind of part of beer and cider. I think he owns it, or the RNA own it, or something like that now. But breweries have got to come back.
Yeah,
breweries have to come back. That was such a good awards event. It recognises great people in the industry. That's a concept that needs to go national.
Yeah,
not just Queensland.
I wonder if they're sort of organising that anyway. Maybe if we've got one of our 200 listens,
let us know.
Let us know
in the comments below.
Happening. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, good beer, a big, solid, full Good Beer Week next year would be very cool.
I'm going.
I'm definitely going.
I've already decided I'm going. So what I normally do is I normally take 2 weeks off and I go down for AIBA judging, which is the week before Good Beer Week, and stay the whole Good Beer Week. Yeah. And then Lee McAllister Smiley, we get an Airbnb apartment together, not in the same room. We get like separate rooms and that sort of thing. That's don't be judgy. And we just hang out and drink beers and do GABS and do events and all that sort of thing. And it's great fun.
Did you see Lee's one of the members of our Facebook group there. Did you see his comment? Yeah, he replied he replied in the intro just saying, "I'm the loose unit." That was his introduction into the Facebook group.
It's true though. That's so true.
All right. Well, there's a few other little news things. We didn't get to pasteurization, but I feel like we'll be here all night if I get you started on that one. So, why don't we get onto the fan questions?
Yeah.
Actually, I might just double check to see if I've got any last minute questions in the group, because I've got Darren Hill with a question straight up, which you would expect.
Yeah.
But if we've got any live ones, I might check those.
Check the Facebook group.
Have a quick looky here. My computer's going a bit slow because I think there's a bit too much going on for this old computer. Yeah. It's not really keeping up. All right. I have a question. Jacob Gordon, when do you think the turning point for the popularity of craft beer was? Was it a specific event or brewery that really shot it into the public limelight? That's a good question.
That's a great question. When did craft beer really take off in Australia?
Australia.
Yeah.
I know, like when we started, I felt like we were very late. Like we were a lot of years after the time we're talking about. A lot of years after you were doing the brew cult stuff. A lot of years after Feral Hop Hog, Stone and Wood, Little Creatures. But the growth since we started has been out of control. It turned out we were pretty early.
I agree. I think there's some phases to it, I suppose, and I'd probably say around sort of the late noughties, early 2010s, when the number of craft breweries happened to grow, but the market, by volume didn't.
Yeah.
And then we started to see sort of in the mid-teens, the rise of some big volume breweries with real rapid production volumetric growth.
Give me some names of the beers and breweries. It's like the first phase you're talking about the little creatures and the malt shovels, that kind of.
No, there was that in the early 2000s. My epiphany beer was Matilda Bay Alpha Pale Ale, and a lot of them.
What year is that? That's going back even further, isn't it?
Yeah, that was kind of 2000
Right.
2003 and that sort of thing. I was living in Perth at the time. And used to drink Alpha Pale Ale at the Queens every weekend. I loved it. I would say, in the late noughties, breweries, Stonewood started, but they were very small. But there were breweries like Feral, Holgate has been around that long.
Yeah, Temptress was a big
yeah.
For me.
And then sort of in 2010 when Moondog started and they started getting really crazy with what was being, really showed people what beer could be creatively. And then as we sort of progress into the teens, the shift, I think, in the types of beer that have been produced sort of became less about being extreme and more about being accessible and reaching a broader market. And there's a very slow shift, I think, in my opinion. And I think once the breweries got to that point where they sort of became mass market in recent years, when consumers would stop buying 4-packs and 6-packs and started buying cartons of craft beer, and the prices of those cartons of craft beer were more accessible. And, as Mazin said, just put the price to the point where it's just got to be to sell a case, That's when we saw that real volumetric growth, that a lot of breweries are now experiencing. And I think we've sort of come to that realization that your beer's got to be up accessible price in order to sell the volume. So it's really hard to answer Jacob's question. It's really hard to pinpoint a time where it really took off. I feel it's gone in phases.
Yeah.
You had sort of the pioneers in the early 2000s, which incidentally all got sold to the majors.
Not all of them. Burley Brewing is still around.
Burley, yeah, true. And then sort of in the 2010s when it was all about, creativity and stuff like that. And then in the sort of mid to late teens when it sort of became about accessibility. And I think that's where we're at now, is about accessibility. Sure, there's still creative beers out there, there's creative breweries and that sort of thing. But it's very hard to build a big sustainable brewing business just solely off that extreme beer creativity stuff.
Yeah, but I think you can build a brand off that. And I think that's what we try to do, is like that spirit that you were kind of pioneering when you were doing your thing, was like every time you bring a beer out, it's different to the last one. And it's amazing and exciting and the label's cool and like all of that shit is still very much what is happening now.
Sure.
But like if you look at it, with our company, if you look at our social media, you'll think where this business is a business that produces 50 beers every week, and that's the business. But that's 5% of the business, not 95% is selling core range beer.
Yeah.
So I think I think the value still, the spirit and the value is still there with that stuff. But it's, for us at least, it's, you need to have, like what you said, you need to have a $50, $60 carton of beer.
I still remember when I first met the three of you guys at Curbside here in the valley here.
Yes, I was pouring your beers. Keep on Trucking, I think, was the release at the time.
Were you working for me?
I was. Yeah, you disappeared for a little while. I wasn't. No, not officially.
Oh, did I say mind the bar?
Yes, you did. Yeah. And I was stoked. You had the little jockey boxes, and I was like, fuck, I'm pouring brew cold beers. This is the best.
I remember having a chat to the three of you guys and, what my experience at the time of the business was and that sort of thing. And I think I was pretty trying to encourage you guys to say, fucking go for it. You can do this, and
yeah. And it turned out that, that was early. in hindsight. I think like, because we're in different places as well. Like you were in Melbourne all that time. I'm in Queensland. So I just only saw what was happening in Queensland.
Yeah.
But I think when we started around the time when Baltic started, but I think they were a few months earlier and they were quicker into cans, I think, because we couldn't afford a canning machine. We were waiting around for someone to come around with mobile canning. But I think Baltic deserve a fair bit of credit for the current kind of explosion of mainstream adoption of craft beer.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
They came out with a good, accessible range of beers and very limited, not only 4 or so beers at the time.
Yeah. And in fact, the can, they kind of went all in on cans, had the 16-pack format, which meant you could buy a carton of it.
Yep, for $60 or whatever. And
yeah,
exactly.
So I think history will show the XPA as kind of one of these beers that, we're talking about the hop hogs and the pack ales and whatnot.
Yep.
XPA could be one of those as well. I think that was a turning point.
Totally. I would definitely put Bolter and Bolter XPA down in there as one of the beers that defines craft beer in Australia.
Yes. I think if we talk for much longer, my computer's going to freak the fuck out because this thing is from well before craft beer existed. And I think we're
buy a new one.
I know. Times are tough, mate. It's bloody expensive fucking running a brewery. I have to buy everyone else computers. I'm the last person to get one. This one's 6 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think I do need a new one. But let's see if we can do one more question because this one's from my brother. So that deserves an opportunity to ask a question on the show. And I
didn't know you had a brother. What's his name?
His name's Steve.
That's a great name.
It is a good name. Yeah, very fitting with the show. So it's on topic. So is craft beer losing ground after the Stone and Wood sale? And he sent me a Guardian article on the topic.
Is craft beer losing ground?
I think
since the Stone and Wood sale.
Yes, I think he's saying, when the major companies own, like you said before, all of the pioneering breweries, is craft beer still a thing?
I would say yes, because as continues to happen, as has happened for the last 20 years, beer consumption has fallen in Australia by volume, but craft beer continues to rise in terms of market share. So we're having a growing piece of a shrinking pie.
Yeah.
A very interesting situation to be in. So if you're one of the majors, you're going to be quite concerned about that. If you're got 50%, 60% of the beer market share, not just craft beer, but the beer market, man, you're going to be panicking at the fact that Australians aren't consuming as much beer as they did 10, 20 years ago. So any craft brewery that's in that growing portion of the shrinking pie that really pops its head up is going to get snapped up.
But that doesn't answer the question though. Breweries getting snapped up is not helping the craft.
No. Okay. So what's going to happen to the craft sector after post Stone and Wood, loss of independence world? I think that what will happen is the independents will consolidate as they've done in the past. And when I say consolidate, I mean that, taps will change and all that sort of stuff. Those that want to buy independent will continue to buy independent. The Beer Cartel survey certainly paints that picture from
which they're also not doing this year.
The Beer Cartel survey,
another casualty from COVID.
That's strange.
It is. I messaged Richard the other day and asked when it's coming out. Not happening.
Not doing it.
No.
Well, they've just done their crowdfunding. They're probably pretty busy, eh?
Yeah.
And so but the consumers have very clearly articulated that they want to buy independent beer if they just knew what it was. And we just got to communicate that better. And I think that craft beer as our portion, our slice of the shrinking pie will continue to grow.
Well, I like the optimism.
Consumers, they want to know where their beer comes from. They want to know who makes it. You know, that's why Great Northern's such a big fucking seller, because they think it comes from somewhere.
Yeah. I like the optimism, Hendo. I don't know. I don't know.
You think it's going to get tougher?
Yeah. Yeah.
How so? How so?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we when we started had a massive advantage that no one ever talked about, which was, you know, we could make a product that we knew the people in our audience wanted, and we also knew the majors were not going to make that product. Like when we started,
yep.
The only beer, let me try and get this right. Outside of actual craft breweries, when we started, there was Little Creatures. They were making good beer. That sold. Like that, you know, crafty, hoppy pale ales, IPAs, that kind of stuff. We started in 2014. What beer out of the majors around that time was around? Other than it was Little Creatures, and that's it.
Sure.
Now it's almost every craft beer you can fucking think of is produced by the majors. So, and no one ever talked about that. People only ever talked about, you know, people want to support local and want to support independence and all of that. But I mean, isn't it relevant that the product was more interesting to people? Like we were able to produce a product that was more interesting to people.
Well, it had more character and more flavor and all that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and the majors could not develop that themselves, right? As much try as they might, they just couldn't,
right?
Because they're used to creating one type of beer. You know, many different labels and the same style of beer and that sort of thing, and do that very, very well, mind you. The only way in which they could access that IP is to buy it, and that's what they've done.
I know, and I mean, I would have done the same thing, and that's fine.
But don't you think that you've?
It changes things.
But don't you think the product innovation is going places that the majors or the craft breweries that are owned by the majors can't follow? And I'll give you an example of your own beer, like East Coast Haze. Right.
Have you tasted Easy Hazy from Baltic? It's pretty fucking good.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't had it.
I bought a 4-pack the other day. I walked into Treetops. They got a massive TV screen thing there with a fridge. They got a $16 4-pack. It tastes good. It looks good. It looks like a craft beer. It's got a great team behind them. The marketing's solid. I mean.
Yeah. And I get it from that perspective. It's like, yeah, okay. So they couldn't imitate craft. So they bought some of the big craft breweries, and now they're able to make the product that would be considered craft, right? And that's why I think.
But it is craft. Their beer is fucking good. Pirate Life beer is fucking good.
Of course. I agree. Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. You know, where do you go from here if the major breweries or their brands are able to compete and be as innovative and as nimble as you as an independent?
Yes.
That's very problematic.
It is. And it'll be interesting because there's a lot of talk about supporting local, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people are still buying Stone and Wood and Bolter beers. Like I buy Bolter and Stone and Wood beers. So do you. You know, it's you know, local and independent's important, but maybe the whole time the most important thing was the product.
I think in some respects, I think that we as independent brewers, we don't do a great job of selling the benefits of independent beer. And you know, like the IBA needs to do better at that. Right. As in direct consumer outreach. That's something that they know they need to do, but hasn't been done that great.
It's on their current kind of list of priorities. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, of course. Look, we're all members of the IBA, and we all have to do our part and work together on that, exactly. Right? So that's a given. We can't just point at the IBA and say fix it.
Absolutely not.
We're the IBA. We have to fix it.
It's
you know,
mostly volunteers, and I've never been on the IBA, but I've been on committees, and it's fucking hard. It's
fucking hard. I'm on one of the committees for the IBA now. You know, and it's hard. You know, and but you got to put in the time for the industry. I think that, but as far as like, and this is just my opinion, is that the IBA's just had real trouble directly reaching consumers about the benefits of independence, right? And I think the thing, that I thought, and this might sound a bit controversial, is I think that the independent seal from the IBA, I don't like it.
Visually or just the concept?
Yeah, visually. I remember when I actually went to the launch of the unveiling of it, right? And if you have a look at it, it's got certified independent. And the first, and I remember when it was unveiled, and the first thing that popped into my mind was certified independent what? It just has to say beer down the bottom. That's all they need to do.
You should work for ABAC. You chuck the word beer on everything and it fixes all problems.
Yeah, absolutely. But it says certified independent. If you take that out of context, not on a can of beer, and stuck it on a wall somewhere.
But it is on a can of beer.
Well, okay, but not on a can of beer, on a poster, right? On a poster in a bottle
with
shop.
A beer on it.
Just put that logo on a poster in a bottle shop and people are going to go certified independent what? In a fucking bottle shop.
Yeah.
Make sense?
I don't know.
If what we're selling, right, and what we're marketing is independent beer. And the independent logo. I don't think
we are.
Like, the independent logo doesn't say the word beer.
Who decided that what we're selling and marketing is independent beer? Like to me, the thing that got me into this whole thing was better beer.
Yeah, for sure. But you can't. But the industry has tried to own the word craft, and the majors muscled in and now own the word craft. Right?
Yeah.
What can't they own? And they can't own independence.
Right.
Right. They can't own, the majors can't own independent beer. And that's the thing that needs to be fixed, right? Is that we need to be positioning ourselves to say, it's not about independence, which is what that logo currently says. It's about independent beer. Okay. And why independent beer is better.
Why is it better?
Right? Why is it better? Well, it's not foreign owned for a start. It is genuinely Australian, right? It's not about quality, not necessarily about quality, although the consumers do see it as quality. It is about local and where you're from, right? And that's all I can think of because I'm not a marketing person, right? And I wish that there were more messages that I could think of that why independent beer is better. I can't even answer that question.
Yeah, I think the idea that Australians making things is a very good thing. Like when I grew up, my dad was into cars, to a limited extent, not as much as kind of I'm into cars now, but he liked his cars. He had Fords and switched. He worked for Ford, had Fords and Holdens. It was, we're making these Fords, we're making these Holdens. We made this SS Commodore. Yeah. It was like, this is cool. We're doing shit. And then the whole industry was propped up for the longest time. And then we just, propped up. And then you're just making products that's no good anymore. And it always comes back to the product. All of a sudden, there's way better cars coming from overseas. There's more competition. You can't keep propping this thing up forever. The whole thing goes to shit. Now we're no longer making anything. And this is something we can make because it does make sense that you drink these kind of beers as close to where they're made as possible because they taste better.
And I agree. And independent beer, right? Like I said, it's not, I don't see it as being a higher quality product, but it should be. And
it could be a more desirable product without being a higher quality product.
Yeah, of course. And I think the IBA could, I think there's an opportunity there for, and there is the quality committee in the IBA and stuff like that, but we need to spend a bit more on educating craft brewers, and a rising tide lifts all boats, and lift our skills in the industry. Have a look at the American Brewers Association.
Yeah,
a massive amount of resources there for free.
Yep.
and brewing quality resources and stuff like that, brewing marketing resources, or beer marketing resources, all that sort of stuff. That's where we need to go. It's going to take a lot of work, right? I'm a pretty vehement supporter of the independent brewing industry and that sort of thing, we've got a lot of improvements to make. Love the IBA, major. I participate in it because I genuinely believe in it. But like everything,
so do we, and it's not super cheap. I'll tell you,
it's not
you're
cheap.
making a fair bit of beer.
No, it's not cheap, but I don't mind paying it.
Yeah, once you're making a few million liters a year, it's a fair bit of money. But they're the sort of things that where I think independence needs to be. I genuinely think, I do believe it in part that it's got to start with the logo, and it just has to say beer at the bottom of that logo. All right. Okay. All right. Well, there's a call to action for that. Yeah. I want to add to the sort of question around whether craft is over because of the buyouts, and bring us back to one of the points Mazen made about when a company sells, like basically these breweries are making good beer because of the people working in the breweries. It's not like the kind of beers I like drinking, these sort of, I suppose, crafty beers. It's not the equipment really, especially the small scale stuff. It's, like some of the beers Gubsy made. Gubs made a fucking beer once on his stovetop just as a fucking joke, and it was amazing. Like,
I made a beer that beat fucking Hop Hog at the Birth Royal Beer Show on a shit brewery.
Exactly.
It's across the country.
Yeah, it's not the equipment. So it's the people, 100%. So
yes,
I suppose
skills.
Yeah. So to take skills and like I'll say one thing about like the environment we're working in, right? We can, and it's unfortunately because we're growing, it's getting less and less true. But we can just have an idea about a beer. Like, we can think of something, we can see a design that inspires us. Like I like watching F1, right? So last year at some point, I was watching the Italian Grand Prix, and I'm like, oh, Parabolica, that's a sick word. That'd be a good name for a beer. Let's make a beer called Parabolica. I put in the channel.
Sick label too.
Yeah, Gubsy's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I messaged Dave Heavyside at 10 o'clock at night. The next day we got a recipe, we got a design. We got a beer called Parabolica. This is just one small release. Like, this is like the beauty of craft beer. I don't know what you call that. It's got nothing to do with independence.
Being nimble.
Being nimble, and it's having the passion and the interest and the excitement, all of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's passion. Okay, well, there you go. They've named some more things there.
Right.
So without necessarily being about quality, it's about being Australian. It's about being local. It's about being passionate. It's about being nimble and innovative. And the vibe.
This episode's just turned into the castle. Yes, to bring us back to a previous episode when we talked to Mazen about it, his point about the acquisitions was that at some point, the people leave.
They do.
So that's going to be interesting. And I think if you look long term at the acquisitions in the past, there hasn't been a lot of innovation long term that I can think of. Little Creatures Pale Ale still tastes pretty good, but I don't know what else they've made in that time since being owned by the majors that's, really outstanding.
Little Creatures Pacific Ale.
Okay.
Never had it.
I saw a billboard for that the other day, and I just thought, okay, this is just.
Would you try it? Would you try it if you saw it at the pub?
Just out of curiosity, but I just, the idea of like, and we've never done a Pacific Ale or an XPA. I just hate the idea of stealing someone else's fucking beer. Just don't do it.
Sure.
I just don't like it. I don't like it. But anyway, the Stonerwood founders said themselves they don't have a problem with it. So it's free game, fair game now. After they sold, they said that.
Black Hops Pacific Ale.
No chance. But that will be interesting. Like to me, in terms of the beer that interests me post-sale, that has stayed really good, Little Creatures, Pirate Life, and Bolter. Maybe Green Beacon. I actually haven't drunk a lot of Green Beacon. I'm sure their beer is still really good.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I've been disappointed by the brand a few times, but
Okay.
always give them another chance every
Yeah.
6 months or so.
I suppose the point is, it's looking good now. And if you listen to what Mazen says, once 3 or 5 years is up and the contracts are earned out, are they still going to get the people in that are just as excited as the original people are and still get this whole vibe?
And I'd say probably not.
Right. Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, that
and
gives
you know,
us some hope.
and hearing from people who are working, you know, in and amongst what's going on now, people got their eye on the door. It's normal.
Yeah.
They'd have to. Some of them would be. I'm not saying it's going to be mass exodus or anything like that, but people have to have their eye on the door. For some people, you know, working for one of the majors is not what they want to do.
Well, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. But there's also a lot of people. I guess that's going to be the thing, isn't it? Like how many? There's a lot of people who that would suit. I mean, there's a lot of.
Yeah, and some people would be totally cool with it, you know.
Yeah.
And totally cool with the corporate thing. You know, there's a lot of crew at Stone and Wood who are ex-Lion, and now that they're owned by Lion again, they go, "Oh, I know this culture. It's fine. I know what to expect now."
Well, I mean, the founders were ex-CUB, weren't they? So.
Well, that's right. Yeah. A lot of the production crew are all ex. You know, the middle management there in production, all ex-Lion.
Yeah.
For them, it's like, okay, we're back in the pride again. Cool.
Interesting times ahead.
Indeed. I do appreciate your perspective of the challenges. Where does independent beer, not craft beer, where does independent beer go now?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Well, the Indies
I still feel,
place to start.
but I have to say though, I still feel positive though.
Right.
And I'm not. I don't want to, make this conversation sound like a Debbie Downer bloody conversation.
Yeah.
I still feel that craft beer, independent beer, and that sort of thing is on the up. You know, we've got all these amazing breweries, even just here in Southeast Queensland, that are building production facilities like Brouhaha and all that sort of stuff. You know, that are growing. You know, Ballistic's growing, you're growing, your mate's growing. You know, they're all growing and that sort of thing, and that's great. On what basis? Yeah, that's a little bit grey for us all at the moment. While the dust settles from this thing, we'll figure it out.
I agree. I'm optimistic as well. I just think you can't kind of ignore that.
No.
That it's significant change from what it was like when we started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think the big thing that's got to come out of this is, for independent brewers is, and this is maybe because I make beer. There's got to be a focus on quality.
Yeah,
we've got to up our game, big time. And because that's what we're competing against. It's us against Lion and CEB.
Yeah,
that's how.
And they're
it works.
making very fucking good beer.
And they're making good beer, and we need to be at the minimum as good as them.
Yeah,
because consumers know, right? Every time they drink a fucking can of beer that's a diacetyl bomb, right? They don't know it's a diacetyl bomb. Average Joe doesn't know it's a diacetyl bomb. He just goes, yuck. Or it's different, therefore yuck, right? He doesn't know it's butterscotch. He doesn't know what he's tasting. He's expecting beer. He's not getting beer, and it's very black-white in that person's mind, right? And so if independent brewers are putting out beers that make people with their very polarized minds go yum or yuck, and it's falling in the yuck category, then we're in trouble, right? And that's therefore at the very minimum for very uneducated palates out there, which is the majority of our consumers, who give us money and pay our bills and all that sort of stuff. We just have to be not yuck.
That's right. Yes, and you've been consistent on that, because I remember when I asked you to write the foreword for our book that I wrote for Black Ops before we'd even opened the brewery, your whole foreword was about making beer well. And that was, I guess, that's 6 years ago now. So
yeah.
Yes. All right. On that note, making podcasts well, we're doing that, right?
We're doing okay.
We're doing okay.
I feel pretty good at this. This is something to do on like a Wednesday or Thursday night or something like that. And
yeah,
I'm good. What else am I going to do? go.
And
have
I
a
like
date or something.
your backdrop there. I want to do better. This is not good. It's
Okay.
normally not good. When I have my new half white.
Let's
house.
talk about that over a beer on Friday.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about backdrops for streaming and that sort of thing. And the idea is not to have like a horizontal. Your back wall is parallel to your desk right now.
You want to be in a corner?
You've got I've got a corner desk here now and all sorts of stuff.
I don't like angles.
A little bit of lighting and all sorts of stuff. You got to start fucking liking angles, mate.
No,
that's how it works.
That's not going to happen.
And some good sound equipment. This very large oversized mic, which I'm thinking of downsizing.
That's the Blue Yeti there, is it?
That is the Blue Yeti. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit of IKEA shit. That's an IKEA shelf and IKEA lights. And
I've got that in my office. I could do it in my office, but I'm not normally in my office at 7:30 at night. That's the problem.
Yeah. You need to set up a home studio, mate.
Okay. Well, my new house that I'm building does have a little home office there, which we can work with.
Yeah, good.
It's going to be about 6 months away. So if we're still going in 6 months' time, then we're good to go.
Yeah, right. Looking forward to it. I'll be in my new place by then as well. So
very good. All right. I'll see you Friday, mate. Cheers.
Take it easy, mate. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Take it easy, man.